Ever since IDETRA began its journey of development, we have been receiving requests from many people expressing their need to understand in more detail what IDETRA is all about. In this video, we attempt to provide more clarity in order to reduce any misinterpretation while we lay out detailed features of this project. But before we explain the project in depth, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Do you have siblings? If not, are you able to imagine how two siblings should interact with each other, right? Okay, so consider the scenario. A brother and a sister, when nobody is around, they find a secret hiding place and kiss each other passionately. Now, hold on that first impression in your head and answer these questions. Is this very wrong, a little wrong, or is it perfectly normal? Can you tell me why that is? Does anyone get hurt in the process? If so, who? And how did they get hurt? Imagine that you actually saw someone performing the act. Would that bother you, or you wouldn't mind? Should the person be stopped or punished in any way? Suppose you learn about two different foreign countries. In country A, people perform this act very often, and in country B, they never do it. Are both customs correct, or is one of them wrong? So, right now, do you know what is happening in your brain? There are two main regions in your brain that deal with processing the previous scenario. They are in constant dynamic of silencing each other to get your attention. The prefrontal cortex and your amygdala. In a crude simplification, both of them have one of many functions. They regulate your immediate behavior. Since your amygdala is designed to act on impulse, it usually takes over at first. It will reinforce some of the notions you already have on what is normal and what is disgusting, what is true and what is false, what is possible and what is not, what is good and what is bad. It uses constructed concepts of what you already know and helps you judge your surroundings so you can avoid possible threats quickly. The prefrontal cortex needs more time because it processes more information, weighs pros and cons, rethinks what you consider to be true or false. It's your but why or what if part of the brain. It takes longer to kick in, but once activated, can silence your amygdala. The weirdness or even disgust you just felt is your amygdala taking over. The follow-up questions were posed to allow your prefrontal cortex to reason with other information that you already possess. Did you feel your brain calm down after reasoning with the follow-up questions? In this video, we will be talking about moneyless societies, large-scale automation, components that drive human behavior, and other concepts that might activate your amygdala several times. All I ask of you is, allow your prefrontal cortex consider the possibilities and derivations of such information. Truly ask yourself whys and hows instead of immediately shutting down in the face of what is being presented to you. IDETRA stands for Initiative to Develop a Transition. But transition to what? Well, simply put, to a system based on abundance. Abundance here is the concept that any individual should have access to whatever he, she, or it requires in any given time. From a person to a tree, everything is factored in. But how can you create a system that is based on abundance? Meaning, creating and setting the cogs inside the machine that outputs such result. It can be created through three main pillars. Number one, the scientific method as a governance methodology. Number two, automation for every repetitive task. Doesn't matter if it's big or small, simple or complex. And number three, social values based on what we know regarding how we function as human beings, both the biological machinery and the psychological aspect that makes you, you. Regarding the governance methodology, the scientific method allows us to organize anything based solely on facts, facilitating us to make decisions based on evidence instead of opinions. For example, if it is required to build a bridge, you would only factor in the necessities of that bridge, from defining a location to best fit the demanded traffic flow to materials that can withstand the weather in that location. If all conditions are met, and let's say two locations produce identical outcomes, then subjectiveness can be applied in the decision making. The strongest aspect of this approach is the use of the same set of rules to generate improvements in the system itself, up to a point where it can be completely discarded if it's found obsolete. Regarding the automation of every single task that is performed twice the exactly same way, this has the potential to completely liberate us from many notions we consider immutable, such as labor being tied to survival and well-being. This even allows us to shift concepts like contributing to the world and personal success. Some examples we could give regarding this notion are cooking a recipe from a famous chef would only require the instructions to be downloaded to the robotic arms in your kitchen. Anything you need could be delivered to your house by a drone. Expanding to a large scale, sensors and heavy machinery can automate massive food production. Extraction of raw materials from the planet in a sustainable way, and the production of goods and services that are designed considering updating, upgrading, and full recycling can be 100% automated with no human participation in operation and maintenance. Regarding values that emerge from the understanding of how we operate as human beings, this helps us negate detrimental behavior and figure out what really drive our individual and collective expressions. For example, people can only learn to be racist, bigots, and xenophobes. No one is born behaving in such ways. Violence has a very specific mechanism that can be completely avoided. What makes you like an expensive sports car is not social status, driving fast, or going places by yourself, but self-achievement expression, enjoyment of sensation of speed, and getting from point A to point B, all of which can be manifested in much more comprehensive, extreme, and safer ways. Another basic notion that derives from this concept is competition versus cooperation. Competition emerges as detrimental since it's fundamentally driven by scarcity, as opposed to abundance, which encourages cooperation, since there's no need to fight for something that is present in a quantity that exceeds all the demand. A good example would be if we redesigned the child's social game musical chairs on a collaborative fashion. Experiment playing this game, removing only chairs and not people by each musical pause, and you will see a collaborative dynamic to balance the same amount of children sitting on fewer and fewer chairs. I can guarantee that no one will come crying to their parents because they lost the game. So, would you like to live in a world where social differences don't exist? Collectively, we all work towards improving such an environment with our values aligned so we understand how to best interact within ourselves and among each other, eliminating the root cause for violence, prejudice, and other aberrant behavior? Wouldn't it be nice to live with all your needs met, with the only requirement being your improved understanding of where your wants come from, redesigning them based on the limitations of the planet and everything that resides on it? With those three concepts in place, it becomes easier to imagine what would happen within such a society. No more traditional learning and testing, as we can integrate curiousness and information effortlessly. Money would become obsolete, since there's no need to represent and exchange value on things that can be acquired or temporarily used by any individual in any given time. Representative democracy and its political scenario no longer apply. The terminology democracy by competence is more suitable, since anyone can present solutions to any problem, whether they have a degree in a specific area or not, as long as they can demonstrate the effectiveness of such solution. Work is only done by individuals who wish to do so in any given time, leaving us free to do the creative work that machines cannot perform, designing and improving tangible artifacts and operational methods. Or you can just go to the beach and enjoy any self-fulfilling activity for as long as you want. Every single requirement for an individual group can be satisfied. The list goes on and on. It would require a few hours to explain all the details and intricacies of a system based on abundance and how it can be feasible. But if you extrapolate all the notions previously discussed, you can arrive at the same high level conclusions we did. Just try to look around you and see those principles changing in the core aspects of what you are observing, checking if they could happen in the aforementioned conditions. But how we can implement such changes, considering the current state of the world we live in? Well, our strategy is the following. Considering the three pillars mentioned, the change in human behavior is the most complex, the one that takes longer, and if not checked first, won't allow tangible change drive a system based on abundance. So it should be dealt with first. Allow me to explain. Consider two different countries. One has an ingrained culture of going to war, and another is extremely peaceful. Both of them develop at the same time a new technology that allows faster and more efficient rockets. It is not hard to imagine that one will be more focused in building better missiles, and the other developing a better space program. We improve behavior, and technology follows a much more interesting path. Based on this notion, we came to a conclusion that since the majority of people will better engage in improving their own lives, we decided to use this egotistical characteristic of present human behavior in our goals' favor. Anyone can access our free informational web platform and go through modular explanatory sessions that present tools to help constructively criticize and reshape their values. We will not try to convince you of anything, just present you with evidence-based data and facts. What type of tools and information, you might ask? Psychology, biology, nonviolent communication, critical thinking, how to identify and avoid fallacies, and many others that can be applied to everyday events. Do you remember at the beginning of this video where we explain about your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala? This is exactly the type of content you can expect from us. Once all modules are concluded, you will gain access to a section where all types of tangible solutions are available for you to consult, with step-by-step instructions on how to implement them. Using Maslow's pyramid concept as a template, we consider that if someone can produce, totally or supplementary, at least their own water, food, and electricity, the impact of financial pressure can decrease significantly. However, we have a very important aspect to consider: the monetary resource to invest in such changes. The vast majority of people with low to mid income want their reality to change, but they don't have the financial means to purchase everything that is necessary to generate or automate their own production. That is why for every solution listed in this section of our platform, we give different versions of the same solution. We have tested this and it works. Everyone will be able to change their own environment. From buying a piece of equipment and even having it installed for you, to recycling materials and building yourself with low to zero costs, everyone will be able to change their own environment, despite how much money they make or where they live. This way, we can generate real impact even in the most resource-limited region in the world. The aspect of recycling and using non-expensive, widely available resources is at IDETRA's core. A possible transition must consider the fact that the best and cheapest resources in the planet reside on what we throw away every day. To expand this envisioned transition, we consider that if someone goes through our platform and starts to live a better life by adopting an improved behavior and producing or automating necessities in their homes, other people who are in the social circle of this individual will take notice of such changes. Hence, the moment where this individual can reference our platform to another person, creating an exponential effect. For a group of people to impact a given environment, such as an apartment building, it is only required for them to reach a critical mass of transition, not every single individual in a given group, and in a coordinated fashion, slowly but steadily present benefits that can improve the lives of a larger group, such as the building investing on photovoltaic panels to generate electricity power for all apartments. This is an exponential growth effect that in the end could transform the entire world. From vertical farms on rooftops to small industries that can produce free tangible goods that are designed to be easily recycled, the permutations of possibilities to increase the number of cases or how complex a solution can be is almost endless. Before we go, I'd like to point out that a system based on abundance may have features that resemble other social structures. However, I urge you not to misinterpret it as capitalism, socialism, Marxism, communism, fascism, technocracy, anarchism, monarchy, or any known social or political approach as a means of organizing ourselves. Also, the resource-based economy terminology used by the Venus Project, the natural law resource-based economy advocated by the Zeitgeist movement, and the system based on abundance concept are all interchangeable with one another. IDETRA's approach to the problem is not to redesign the ultimate goal of such concepts, but to implement a strategy that will help us achieve such goal. To better understand the concept of a system based on abundance, you can also check these entities. We invite you to explore our platform idetra.org. And if you have any questions, please contact us through the email idetra@idetra.org. We will be more than happy to talk to you.